Super Mario Bros. 35 is a frantic version of the original NES game with 34 other players. It's an addictive, high-pressure experience that's familiar enough for any Mario fan to pick up, but it's also challenging to master. We're going to look at how it works, what changes have been made to the game, and how you can outlast the competition. Before you start each game, you pick a stage that you'd like to play from those that you've already unlocked. At first, this can feel like your choice doesn't matter, since you might end up playing early levels like 1-1 and 1-2 on repeat. Actually, all of the selected levels get organized into a level queue that all players use. Everyone begins on the same stage, and after clearing that one, everyone moves on to the next predetermined level. It's not random. The levels are shuffled in a way that the more difficult levels are placed at the end of the list so that the challenge ramps up more toward the end of the game. So even if you keep choosing a level like 6-4, you won't ever end up seeing it in the early stages of a match, but don't worry, it's on the list. The 35 shuffled levels are played by everyone in order. If somehow you run out of levels, you'll loop back to the beginning of the queue until a winner is determined. But so far this seems to be extremely rare. The warp zones you'll find in 1-2 and 4-2 make things a bit more interesting. Let's say after 1-1, everyone moves on to 1-2 for their second stage. If you clear it using the flagpole, you'll move on to whatever level was selected as stage 3. In the original game, going to the warp zone would let you warp to world 2, 3, or 4, in that order from right to left. But now you'll see stages 4, 5, and 6 in that order. This not only lets you choose your best option, but it can also tell you what stages are coming up next. Here, if you choose the right pipe and go to 1-3, you'll already know that your next stage will be 2-1, then followed by 1-4. This can be helpful if you want to avoid more difficult levels like castles, slow underwater levels, or to choose easier levels to restock on coins and time. Sometimes you'll even get the option to warp from 1-2 back into 1-2 to get 3 new choices. This can be good most of the time, not only because 1-2 is an easier level, but it's also stocked with coins and keeps your options open. When you first start playing, all you'll be able to select is 1-1, and you'll have to unlock the other levels. There's 2 different ways to unlock a level. If you clear all of the levels you currently have unlocked, the game will unlock the next one you don't have. On the level select screen, there's a flag on every level that you've cleared to this point, and the number shows you how many times you've cleared it. Selecting whichever level you haven't cleared yet will ensure it will be in the level queue. Then if you reach it and clear it during the game, the next stage will unlock, and this method will let you unlock all of the stages in order. The other thing that can happen is that stages you haven't unlocked yet can come up during the course of the game because other players have selected it. Any stage that appears and you clear will be immediately unlocked for you. In either case, you'll be looking to play advanced stages that you haven't cleared yet. These levels are going to be placed towards the end of the queue, so you're going to need to rush ahead and skip as many stages as you can with the warp zones to maximize your chances of the right level coming up. Once you've unlocked stages, you can start picking levels that you think will give you an advantage during play. You can pick levels to bring in specific enemies like 3-1 for Hammer Brothers or 4-1 for Lakitus. You can choose a stage with more difficult platforming like 6-3 or even 1-3. You could pick the 7-4 castle since it has a maze that players must have memorized or it'll loop forever. You could choose a warp zone for choices or just choose whatever level you think will be more fun for you. It's up to you. Most players have a difficult time getting used to how Mario controls since the original Super Mario Bros. Controls a lot differently than other Mario games. Not only this, but some minor changes have also been made to its physics. Mario now gets a high bounce off of enemies when holding the jump button, like was introduced in the Lost Levels, instead of him falling like a rock. This lets you better handle larger groups of enemies by multi-bouncing on them, and you can use an enemy to leap over obstacles. One thing that can be very dangerous is that Mario accelerates unevenly while running. During the first half second of a run, Mario will move really slowly, and if you jump, he'll keep barely moving slowly, and if you're not expecting it, you might undershoot jumps. Once Mario has run for about half a second, he's immediately at full running speed and can leap over large distances. If you press backward after doing a running jump, this will immediately kill Mario's momentum to shorten the distance he's going to fly. It's useful for an emergency stop, but it's very difficult to move again if you over-apply the brakes. This can even be awkward for experienced Mario players that expect Mario to move around more fluidly in the air. Also, when you jump, be careful to keep holding down the jump button, especially if you're trying to shoot fireballs at the same time. If you let go, Mario will fall back down more quickly than you might be used to in other Mario games, and this can make it easy to miss jumps. Mario also won't turn around while in midair, which can make it difficult to try to hit an enemy that's sitting above you on a ledge. If that wasn't enough to worry about during jumps, taking damage in the air will also kill Mario's momentum and immediately send him downward. This can become very frustrating and will likely end many of your matches. Anytime you take damage in the air, try to focus on where Mario will land if you keep moving forward or if you decide to hold left. Falling in bottomless pits is the most common way to lose a match. Pay attention to spots you have a difficult time with and try to slow down and deal with them safely. A couple early examples are this jump in 1-3, where you should wait for the Paracupa to fly lower before you try to jump across, the broken bridge in 2-3, and this elevator in 2-4. With practice you'll have a consistent way to handle every area and panic a bit less when things go wrong. Since the game puts more difficult stages later in the level queue, it's important to realize that this isn't a race. Unless you're trying to unlock levels, there's no reward for clearing stages quickly except the opportunity to play harder stages. When you take damage in the original game, Mario would turn into Small Mario whether he was Super Mario or Fire Mario. Now he steps down one level at a time, like he has since Super Mario Bros. 3, which gives you an extra chance to escape tough situations and to not need 2 power-ups again to regain Fireball power. Also, when you collect a Fire Flower, Mario will change into Fire Mario, even if you took damage between making the Fire Flower appear and collecting it. Try to trigger power-up blocks as soon as you can in tough situations, and then try to man it until you take damage, and be ready to collect the Fire Flower and obliterate everything. You can also choose to take damage on purpose and collect power-ups while you have invincibility frames for extra safety. This avoids rushing to power up just to immediately get hit right afterward. The coins you collect during the game will add up in the corner of the screen. When you find yourself in a tough situation, you can spend 20 coins by pressing either X or L to spin the item roulette. Pressing it quickly afterward will also cause it to stop faster. You'll randomly get a mushroom, fire flower, star, or POW block to recover damage or to help you proceed a bit further. Collecting coins should be a primary focus during most of your games so that you'll have a safety net when times get tough. The coins can also drain quickly because you aren't guaranteed to get the item you're hoping for. When the game gives you a POW block, this at least lets you inch forward a little bit and decide if you want to keep spinning. The star lets you move on quickly to the next power-up location, and you can wait a bit to spin and conserve your coins. It's not a bad idea to spin when the screen is covered with tough enemies if you're Super Mario and you feel uncomfortable and have some coins built up. All of the options except for a mushroom will be helpful for you. If you're Fire Mario, it's probably better to deal with the situation until you take damage so that half of the things you get won't be useless to you. Collecting coins should be a priority while the timer isn't low. It's good to not waste time, so single coins and ones that are out of the way are good to skip. The majority of the coins you collect will come from 10 coin blocks and 1-ups. Although they're called 10 coin blocks, you can get more from them if you're close to the ground so that you can hit the block quicker. 1-ups are worth 20 coins, so they're very valuable to grab during most of the match. Memorize their locations in the first levels of every world, 1-2 and 8-2. Coin Heaven bonus rooms can also give a large number of coins, but they can eat up quite a bit of your time to get through. You can build up a small coin bank just by taking your time right out of the gate. The first couple levels are commonly 1-1 and 1-2. Skipping the pipe in 1-1 will give you a 1-up and a 10 coin block, then in 1-2 you can hit 3 separate 10 coin blocks and grab another 1-up. Just this alone will give you over 80 coin. Keep building up your bank so that you'll feel safe to spin for items multiple times whenever you need to. 200 coins is a good first target to hit so you'll have 10 spins, but don't stop there so you won't risk running out. The timer can be the most visually threatening thing in the game. It hovers over the action, reminding you that no Mario can live forever. At the start of the game you'll have just 35 seconds, but the clock will count down slowly at 1 tick per second. After about 10 minutes it will count down twice as fast, but this is easy to not even take notice of. 4 minutes later the clock will turn red to get your attention, and it will start to run as fast as the original Super Mario Bros. Clock did at 3 ticks per second. This point serves as a reminder that you should keep the timer as high as possible if you haven't been doing it already, because from there it will speed up even more every 2 minutes. Next it will run at 5 ticks per second and then even 10. This is usually the breaking point for the remaining players to end a long match around 17 minutes in. The timer will also speed up if you sit idle and don't advance the screen for a while. A warning will appear and the clock will race downward until you do. You can gain time by defeating enemies, clearing levels, and collecting extra power-ups. Power-ups will net you 15 seconds, so are almost always worth collecting. Ending a level with an axe or using a warp zone will give you 10 seconds, and levels with a flagpole are worth 15 if you can jump to the top. But enemies are the real key to building up time quickly. You can use a fire flower to mow down large groups of enemies safely, but you're only going to get 1 second each for them. Bowser's will give you 5, but you'll actually get more just by jumping over him in castle stages. When you clear a level, all of the enemies on screen will be defeated, and Bowser's will be worth 10 seconds instead of just 5. The superstar is the next best thing to clear out enemies quickly and keep moving forward. The first 7 enemies will give you 2 seconds each, then 3 seconds for the next group, and 4, and the cycle will repeat. They're great for building up time quickly early on and in tough situations, but we can do better than that. You can start to earn large amounts of time just by jumping on enemies. A single enemy is worth 2 seconds, but multi-bouncing on groups of enemies earns an extra second on every enemy up to the double digits. Especially early on, try to take out groups of enemies whenever you can do it safely. If there are low ceilings, Bowser's, Hammer Brothers, or Spinies, spamming fireballs is probably a better option. Multi-bouncing is great, but it can still be a bit slow. Kicking a Koopa shell is the best way to build up a large amount of time without much effort, and is great for clearing out tight spaces. It's so good that I might skip out on grabbing a star if there's a long path with a Koopa shell I can use instead. Koopa shells will take out every enemy in the game, including Bowser's. However, a Bowser will cancel out the shell, and you'll be at risk from any enemies falling from above. So don't just run blindly ahead. Even during the fastest timer speed, you can come out ahead with shells. No matter how much time you build up, the clock will max out at 400 seconds. At that point, you should switch over to collecting more coins. As long as the clock is over about 350, the time you get by playing for coins will likely still keep your clock maxed out until it starts running fast. Keep an eye on it and switch as needed. When panic starts to set in, you should only focus on earning large amounts of time and using items to stay alive. At this point, it's worth doing anything that can pause the timer for a bit to give yourself any kind of edge you can. Going into a bonus room with a pipe can pause the timer on the way in and out. Taking damage and getting power-ups will also pause the timer, so if you've built up a lot of coins, you can take damage on purpose and use an item to power back up. This is another opportunity to make a fire flower appear, take damage twice on purpose, then collect the fire flower to get as many pauses in as you can. This technique is helpful with around 100 seconds left, depending on your coin total. There's an enemy tracker at the bottom of the screen where you can see the enemies coming up in Mario's path. Standard stage enemies will appear along with ghost enemies sent by opponents. This can let you plan for difficult situations coming up, especially on levels where avoiding enemies is difficult, like 1-3 and 2-3. Nothing can ruin a jump to a small platform like a Bowser sitting right in the middle of it. It can also be important in spots where enemies can spawn above you and fall onto Mario if you're running quickly. In general, you'll have to slow down to wipe them out or avoid them using alternate paths or large enemy bounces. In some spots, there will be a sign that you can kick a Koopa for a big gain, like in tighter areas and castle stages. The left and right sides of the screen show all of the players left in the game. One of them will have a red cursor on them. This is the player you're currently targeting, and all of the enemies you defeat will be sent to them. If one of these enemies knocks them out of the game, their player box will turn orange and you'll get half of their remaining coins and time. With a huge number of enemies cycling between the players and many deaths happening from players falling in holes, getting credit for a KO is difficult and unreliable. But here's how you can tilt the odds more in your favor. Similar to Tetris 99, using the right stick will let you select different targeting schemes to try to be the most effective. The game will start you off on random, which will send the next enemy you kill to someone, and will immediately switch to a different player to target afterward. This will spread out your enemies evenly to many opponents. Although one enemy usually won't be a threat, it's possible to catch an opponent in a bad spot and get credited with the KO. However, this is just based on luck, but it can be a decent option early on while you're concentrating on building up coins and time so you don't have to worry about the other players. Pressing the right stick up will select the player with the lowest amount of time remaining. Sending easier enemies to them most likely will give them the ability to gain time faster, so this choice can be counterintuitive. Early on, a player with a lower timer is probably a weaker player, so it can work out. At the very last stages of the game, sending advanced enemies to a player with low time can slow them down enough to take them out. If you think that you have a time advantage, you can avoid sending out weaker enemies to make things difficult on opponents without helping them gain time. On the right, you can target the player who has the most coins. The player with the most coins is likely the strongest player, and sending them enemies will also slow them down. You could try to target the player with the most coins in hopes that you'll steal half of their coins, but since this player has coins, they can easily use items to protect themselves. So you should be choosing this option primarily to slow down the best player and even out the playing field. You could still end up helping them by sending them weaker enemies, but stronger enemies can cause them to spend coins before they would have otherwise. The last option is to select attackers. This will target every player targeting you, and is the only way to target multiple players at the same time. You can get a bit of revenge for someone sending you enemies, but especially if you're targeting a large number of players, this can have a game escalating effect. Every enemy you defeat will be copied and sent to everyone you're targeting. Then if they defeat the enemies, all of the copies can end up coming back to you and repeating to create swarms of Hammer Brothers, Bowsers, and Lakitus. If you feel confident, this can be a great option to cause a large amount of havoc and induce KOs, but if the situation gets out of hand, it's likely to switch back to random. This way anyone targeting you because they're also on attackers will no longer be targeting you. This will at least stop the enemies from multiplying, since you won't be adding to it anymore. You can also use the left stick to manually move the cursor to a player you'd like to target directly. Looking at the individual player panels, you can see what types of stages are being played at any moment. Enemies will be harder to deal with in a castle and tougher platforming levels, unless you notice that they're near the end. The coin icons that you see on top of the panels also show how many coins each player is holding. Each coin icon represents 20 coins, one full spin of the item roulette. If a player has 5 coin icons, then they have at least 100 coins, but the actual number is unknown. Players low on coins are unprepared to deal with tough enemy situations, and they make great targets for narrowing the field, even if you don't get many coins when you knock them out. Deciding on a player to target requires you to take your eyes off the action, so it can be very dangerous to do. The longest pause you get during the game is while hitting a 10 coin block, so this can make a good time to quickly survey the field when you want to try out manual targeting. Making it even more difficult, the targeting cursor can be difficult to move because it will try to skip over the KO'd screens. If the player you want isn't directly in line with the cursor, it can be difficult to select them. Of course, you're not the only one who will be sending out enemies. You'll have to deal with all types of enemies that could appear nearly anywhere at any moment. There will be plenty of Goombas and Koopas scattered everywhere, but they usually aren't in the way, they move predictably, and you can take them out easily for extra time. Piranhas are the first enemy you might encounter that can be tricky. If you don't have a fire flower, you're forced to jump around them, and this can be tricky on small platforms. With one, you'll be able to take them out, but they're surprisingly difficult to hit. A piranha's hitbox is about half as tall as they are, making them a pain to hit. On the other side, this can make jumping over them safer than it seems. If piranhas are in line with enemies that are walking by them, you can actually jump on the enemies and stay safe, even though the piranhas look taller. This is tough to get used to, but squeezing past piranhas in a tight space feels great when it works. Spinies will get in the way when you're jumping on enemies, and buzzy beetles will make you pay attention when you're spraying the screen with fireballs. You likely won't see large numbers of either since they're in very few levels. The water enemies, however, can both be tricky to deal with above the ground. Cheep-cheeps come up from a random part of the screen, and if they spawn on the left, they can immediately get in your path. Bloopers move erratically, so they can be tougher to take out. You'll often have to take things slower with them around to stay safe. Hammer brothers, though, are awful. They jump ridiculously high and throw hammers at you. They can even throw their hammers behind them as you take them out for extra danger. Then if you manage to avoid one, they'll chase you down unless you can keep outracing them. Destroy them at nearly all costs with either a fire flower or a star. Not only to prevent them from chasing you, but these are some of the best enemies to send to opponents. They can feel unpredictable, even though they jump at regular intervals. Bowsers are also great to send out. It takes 5 fireballs to take out a Bowser, and they're large enough to take up an entire platform. They're quite slow and can take a while to begin shooting fire, so you can usually run up to them and spam fireballs safely. However, the best prize, by far, goes to Lakitu. He's way up high to make it very tough to take him out, and he continuously drops spinies, making you focus on the upper half of the screen. And that's just with one. Once multiple of these guys get into circulation, the screen is showered constantly with spinies, and if you don't keep moving, the ground becomes flooded with them, making it tough to clear them out and move around at all. If you notice multiple Lakitus building up, it's probably better to just switch to random targeting. This will disperse them to different players as you take them out, and hopefully keep them away from you. One effective technique is to shield yourself with a ceiling and blast everything with fire until you can see an opening. If your screen starts becoming filled with Lakitus, it's probably too late to try to deal with the situation directly, and you should look for a way to clear the screen, or you'll be burning through your coin supply quickly. Anytime you change screens, it will completely clear away all of your enemies, including those loaded in your enemy tracker. Visiting a bonus area will also keep enemies from spawning until you leave. Although you will then get enemies on your first screen back, you'll have had time to rest from the nightmare you left behind, and recover with item spins. Another thing that changed in this game is that you can no longer do the infinite 1-up bounce with Koopas on a staircase, like at the end of 3-1. Also, because Koopas only give time, and are sent to the other players the first time you bounce on them, I'm not really sure why this was removed. So now that you've got the ammo needed to build up coins, manage your time, and keep Mario alive, you can start consistently reaching the end of the game and rack up some wins. After you've won at least one game, you can take a look at the coin ranking leaderboard. Here you can see the highest number of coins you've earned in the game during this week, and you'll be able to see where you place among all the players and get a grade. During a match, the treasure chest in the corner collects coins from the players that were knocked out of the game but didn't die directly from an enemy sent by another player. Whenever you win a match, you'll get the coins you had remaining, a 100 coin bonus, and all of the coins in the treasure chest for that game. After adding these up, your total will be doubled if you chose to start the game as Small Mario. On the core selection screen, you can choose to spend some of your coins to start with a mushroom, a flower, or a star. You'll earn way more coins than you can spend here, so if you don't care about getting high coin scores, there's no reason not to use them. As of now, power-ups are the only thing that you can spend your coins on, but as you collect them, you'll level up and unlock icons that you can select to use right away. But for now, that's what you need to know to play Super Mario Bros. 35. Thanks for watching, and give the video a like if you found it helpful. Next time, I'll be walking through each level in the game to show you where you can get everything and some tricky spots to avoid. Be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications for that and future live streams. Good luck in your games!